Good day, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our Perfect Fit Closets webinar for Thursday, February 9th, 2023. Today, we'll be talking about some advanced training tips, such as wall setup, wall placement zones, change wall height angled, and subtract and add placement zones. So let's go ahead and copy this and put this right into our design. I'll grab a brand new design for everyone. And we'll paste our note. So let's go ahead and create a master closet. I'm going to go into my room layout tab. I'll click on the continuous wall, and we're going to select single-sided. We're going to click on the continuous button, and I've got a plus for my mouse. I'm going to work from left to right, and always, whenever I do a wall, I'd like to go clockwise. I'll make this 100 inches long, let's say by 120 inches this way, 120 inches this way, and let's just say by, let's say 80 inches. So I've got 4 different walls. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's go ahead and create some elevations here. I've mentioned this several times in our webinars. There are 2 ways to create an elevation on your drawing. One is you can select the placement zone, as you can see here. I can double click this area, and I've got a brand new elevation 1 tab. If I go to my next wall that's currently highlighted, the second way to create my elevation is to click on a room layout tab and select add elevation. Because it's already selected, I can select now add elevation, and I have now my elevation 2. So let's go ahead and create our walls. We're going to go ahead and label everything. And I'll make this as elevation 1. And I'll make my notes, just so that everyone can see everything. And this is always great for our designers as well, and installers and clients. More notes is better than less. And I'll just finish that up here. And there's my elevation 2 note. Well, again, double click the tab area, and I can certainly change the naming convention. Click on the add note. So I'm always labeling it twice. I personally like to label it at the very top of every single elevation. I like to do the elevation tab as well as the top view. Double click. Let's change this to elevation 4. Add my note here, elevation 4, and one more for my top view. Left click once. I like to grab my squiggly line and just rotate. A question that somebody's currently asking is, how do you rotate my notes that way? Well, there's 2 ways to rotate your note. You can click on your note that's currently highlighted. You can right click and select rotate. That's one way to move your note. The second way is if I left click twice, I have my squiggly line on the top left. I can grab that squiggly line and rotate it. So there are my 2 ways to change the orientation and rotate my notes. Currently, my default for my wall properties is 96 inches, as you can see here on my elevation tab. The second point that I'd like to make is how to change the heights for all the walls. Typically, walls will always be the same height. 96 inches is the current standard in most homes, but you'll have a lot of newer homes where they have 120-inch ceilings, 130-inch ceilings. So let's go ahead and see if we can change the properties on our walls. I'll just move my elevation up. To change my wall properties, on my top view, I'm going to select any one of my walls. It doesn't matter which wall I select. I can select any one of these walls that I've created. I can right-click on the wall itself. This is indicating that I'm on wall 3. I don't want to do anything to wall 3. I want to go into properties. When I go into properties, I'll just move this off to the side. You can see that currently wall 3 is selected. It's highlighted in green in the background from our dialog box. I can click on wall number 1, and these are the properties for wall number 1. But I want to change everything all at the same time, so all the walls have the exact same properties. I can click on wall group 1, and now all my walls are currently highlighted in green. In my wall properties dialog box, I have 3 tabs: dimensions, type, and material. In the dimensions tab, we can see the height is at 96 inches. We can certainly change this for a master closet, and let's say they have 120-inch ceiling height. I can click 120 inches. We'll click on apply and OK. And if we take a look at our elevations, they're all now at 120 inches. So very, very simple to change this. So once again, to recap, I can right-click anywhere on the top view on my actual wall. We'll click on properties. We'll move this dialog box to the side. Click on wall group 1 and its entirety, and change the height from 96 inches standard to whatever the current ceiling height is. Next is how to change angled walls. Well, we have some walls that have angled walls where one is higher than the other. So let's do a couple different demonstrations on how we can do that. Sometimes you actually have a bedroom that's right underneath the roof, and there's no attic, and therefore you have a sloped ceiling. So let's pretend that we have a sloped ceiling on, let's see here. Let's change this to 120 inches. I'm going to make it uniform. Let's change it on the 120-inch wall. So I have wall 1, or elevation 1, and elevation 3. Let's say that we want the ceiling height for elevation 2, ceiling height. Let's say that this is going to be 96 inches. And we're going to say that wall 4, or elevation 4, ceiling height, and let's change this to 120 inches. And now what we want to do is we want to have a gradual slope from elevation 2 to elevation 4. So it's tapered. So the bottom here is going to be 96 inches, but increases all the way to 120 inches by the time it reaches elevation 4. Maybe you're at peaked. So let's change these, and I'll show you how to do so. First things first is elevation 4. I can right-click on elevation 4 or wall number 4. We'll click on properties, and we're going to change just wall number 4 and its entirety to 120 inches, which is correct. We're going to change ceiling or elevation 2 to 96 inches. So we're going to click on our dimensions tab. The height's 96 inches, and apply, and OK. So let's take a look. Here's my current render, and you can see here that I now have a lower wall here and a higher wall. But now we got to change the 2 north and south walls. So now we're going to go on our properties on our wall. Now, take a look at elevation 3. We want this point to be lower, this point to be higher. So now that I'm on wall 3, where it says the height at 120 inches, now it says use same height for both ends. I'm going to deselect this box. If I select my cursor here, this is this point right here. We want this point to be 96 inches. And if I select and put my mouse here, we want this wall to slope all the way to 120 inches, which is currently the default because I currently changed it. We'll click on apply. Next, we're going to do the exact same thing for elevation 1. or wall 1. We want this point to be 96 and this point to be 120. I'll go to my height. We will deselect use same height for both ends. We're going to select the first tab here, and it's currently this point. We want to leave that 120 inches. We'll select at this end. You can see the green is now at the lower end, so we're going to change this end to 96. We'll click on Apply and OK. We'll click on our Presentation tab, and we should have a wall that's angled, which is correct. So sometimes you'll have an actual house that's got a sloped ceiling. And this is how you would change it so that you would have our sloped ceilings. The question that somebody else has is sometimes it's not a perfect slope from 96 to 120 inches. Sometimes the actual slope changes, 24 inches out, 36 inches out, or even halfway. So how would you do that? We're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to start the slope somewhere in the middle. Let's go into my continuous ball. We'll click on 120 inches. We're going to make 120 inches this way, 120, 120, and 80. But we want the slope to be right here at this point, right in the middle. So we're going to do 60 inches, enter. Go back this way, 60 inches, enter. So now I've got two walls here. I want 120 inches this way. And then we want 60, enter. Keep going, 60, enter. And we want 80 this way. So essentially, I created the exact same room, except these walls are broken. So we can go ahead and right-click on the wall properties. So we want this wall here that's currently highlighted, that's wall number 2. We're going to keep that at 96 inches. We want wall number 4, which is right here. We're going to keep that to 120 inches. Apply. And right here where it says wall 1, section 1. Okay, we want section 2. So section 2 right here is going to be all 96, which is correct. Section 1, this one right here. This is where we want to change it. From this point is going to be 96. This point is going to be 120. Deselect the height dialog box. Put the cursor here. So that's where the actual cursor is right here. That's where that point is. We want to make that 120 inches. And this point, we're going to keep it at 96. Apply. We'll do the exact same thing on this wall. So wall 3, it's got 2 sections. This section, we're going to keep at 96, which is correct. Section 2, we're going to deselect the dialog box for use same height for both ends. Place my cursor here. That's going to be 96, which is correct. Place my cursor at the end, and I want this to be 120. Apply, and OK. Go to my render. Now I have the exact same rooms, and we have on the original plan, we had the actual wall starting out at 96 inches, tapering up all the way to 120 inches. In example number 2, we broke the walls, and we had this section here, 96 inches, tapering up halfway from the 60-inch mark all the way up to 120 inches. So you can certainly manipulate your walls depending on your ceiling heights. And that's how you would change wall heights. The next question is subtracting and adding placement zones. I'm going to create a brand new design here with a bunch of different walls. So let's just go ahead and just start creating some walls here. And make this one irregular here. All right, so I've got a whole bunch of different walls here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 walls here. Some of these walls are not needed. I can always add and subtract placement zones, but I always want to subtract any placement zones that are not in use. Well, I know that I might not make anything on this wall. I might not make anything on this wall or this wall. So I can always subtract the placement zones. This is always very important using our catalog. So I'm going to go ahead and just guess for the time being that I don't need this placement zone. I don't need this one, nor these 3. I can right-click anywhere on any part of the wall. We'll click on our properties. We'll move our dialog box off to the side. And let's start off with wall number 1. I don't need this wall, so I'm going to go into my Type tab. In my Type tab, I have placement zones. I have inside or outside. If I click on outside, I'm now going to have a placement zone on the inside of the wall as well as the outside of the wall. So this is great when you're making elaborate designs and you're doing more than just a closet. Maybe you're doing an actual master bedroom and so forth. Maybe you have a kitchen on the other side for a different catalog. That's how you would add and subtract placement zones. So let's go ahead and subtract all the placement zones. So now wall number 1 is cleared. Click on apply and we'll move on to the next wall. Wall number 2, I don't need anything in this wall. Deselect the placement zone. Click on apply. We'll go to wall number 3. I'm not using anything in this wall. Deselect, apply. We wanted this 43-inch wall. So it would be wall number 6. Deselect. And let's say the very last wall, wall number 9. Deselect. Apply and OK. So now I only have 4 placement zones where I can add my modules. I can add this placement zone here, here, and here. You could always add it afterwards. Maybe the client has changed their mind and say, hey, Sherwin, I want to add an actual module on this return wall here. No problem at all. We can go to that wall itself, move our dialog box off to the side. I'm currently in wall number 9. I can click on my Type tab and select my inside placement zone dialog box. Click on apply, OK, and now I have re-added my placement zone. The next question that somebody is having is depths of placement zones. I'm going to click on my File tab and go down to Preferences. Under Preferences, underneath Walls/Construction Lines, I have something here called Placement Zone Depth. Every dealer has got a different default. Now, I want to change this to 12 inches deep. Okay, I'm going to click on apply and OK. So that means I have 12 inches deep from this point to the wall. Now, if I make this something that's 12 inches deep, take a look here. I'm going to go ahead and add a module. So this is a 12-inch deep placement zone. I'm going to go ahead and add a tall module. So I've added a 24-inch module. You can see that it's currently protruding past the placement zone because this wall, or I'm sorry, this module is 14 inches deep, but the wall placement is only 12. Now take a look here. If I add a drawer box, if I add a drawer box into my module, what's missing is the drawer front. Well, we know the drawer front is there. I can see it on the top view. It's right here. But it's not showing up in the elevation. And it gets a little confusing. Curious to know why it's not there. Well, it's not there because the placement zone is only 12 inches. So I'm going to increase my placement zone depending on my depth of the module so I can see what is being included in my design. So all I got to do now, so please take a note of this drawing here. We're going to click on our file, our preferences, move that off to the side a bit. We're going to select our walls/construction lines. We're going to change it. Instead of 12 inches deep, we're going to change this to 14 3/4, but I might add a handle. So I'm going to increase it to 16 inches here. Click on apply. You can see that the placement zones for all the walls have now moved. Now it's in front of the module, and we can see right here in the elevation, my drawer front has now repopulated. So a little bit of manipulation on the actual configuration of your platform will really help you view our catalog so that you know what's being included. It will always be included if you actually take a look at the render, but obviously you want it to actually see it in the schematic as well. And there's the drawer front, the drawer box at the very top. There you go. Well, thank you everyone for chiming in to today's session of our PFC webinar for Thursday, February 9th, 2023. We spoke about our wall setup, the placement zones in and out and changing the depths, and subtracting any placement zones that aren't in use. We spoke about how to change the actual wall height, how to make angled walls, and again, subtracting and adding placement zones. If any dealer has any questions regarding tracking in order, design assistance, we also offer unlimited training support. You could always email our general email at support@perfectfitcanada.com. This is a group email, and this will get distributed to several of our team members. And the next available team member will certainly help you with your design or question that you might have. Thank you once again. I'm your host, Sherwin Keeley, and thank you very much for becoming our dealer.